look too happy. In fact, he looks a wee bit sad. His servants are looking for someone to cheer him up. I wonder who that little boy is. Well, the servants have found a man called Jesse who has 8 sons, and apparently one of the sons is really, really good at playing the harp. Bring him to me. He will play me soothing music. David was brought to the palace, and he came to the palace and he played the harp for King Saul. The Bible tells us that King Saul was troubled. The enemies of the Israelites was the Philistines. And the Philistines were wanting to attack the Israelites. They were wanting to have a war. They were wanting to defeat the Israelites. There was so much on this man's mind. I'm in the Elah Valley. We have hillsides on either side of the valley. On one hillside we have the Philistine army, and on the other side we have the Israelites, whose king is Saul. In the picture we see an armor bearer for this big giant called Goliath. Look at all his armor. The armor is about 125 pounds in weight. That is very, very heavy. He has a bronze helmet on, and he has body armor. He looks a wee bit scary, doesn't he? Let's go and find out what size Goliath is.
Why are you all coming out to fight? I am the Philistine champion. You are only the servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down and fight me. If he kills me, then we will be your slaves. But if I kill him, you will be ours. I defy the armies of Israel today. Send me a man who will fight me.
Oh, he's a noisy boy. He is so loud and really, really, really scary. Goliath would come out in the morning and in the evening. And he did this for 40 days and nights. And he shouted abuse at the Israelites. The Israelites were terrified, as you can imagine. He looks scary and he sounds really scary too. What was King Saul going to do? What were the Israelites going to do? Hi Jesse. Well, have you got David all packed up? And you have the roasted grain packed, the 10 loaves of bread, and the 10 cuts of cheese for the captain? Oh, super. These people are all sorted out, they're all prepared. David is ready to leave for Bethlehem. But hold on. David was a shepherd boy, wasn't he? I wonder who would look after the sheep. Who's looking after the sheep? Ah, okay. Very good. They have another shepherd. They have another shepherd to look after the sheep. So David's ready to go. Jesse's going to wave him off, and he's going to see his 3 eldest brothers who are part of Saul's army. I wonder what stage we're at with the battle now. I wonder what's going to happen.
Send me a man to fight.
He's shouting again. Oh, dear me. I wonder what David thinks of all of this. Apparently, there's a reward. There's a reward for killing this big giant. These soldiers are all afraid. They are petrified. They are so afraid of this massive giant. Apparently there's a reward for killing this giant. King Saul has said that he will allow one of his daughters to marry the person that can kill Goliath. And also, the whole family will not have to pay taxes. That sounds like a good reward. But everybody seems really afraid. Nobody wants to go near this giant. But David doesn't look happy. David looks really annoyed because he is shouting and taunting the Israelites. But wait, something seems to be happening. I think King Saul wants to speak with David.
Don't let anybody be afraid. I am your servant. I will go and fight this Philistine.
You're hardly more than a boy. This man has been fighting all his life. But you've had no training.
Ha ha! But you see, I look after sheep for my father Jesse. And I have killed wild animals, animals like lions and birds, with my own hands. This Philistine who has dared to defy the armies of the living God shall be like those wild animals to me. God will deliver me from this Philistine.
Go, and the Lord be with you.
Surely this is no match. Goliath's body armour is 125 pounds in weight. He has a javelin, a spear and a sword. And he's over 3 meters tall. And then there's this little boy who couldn't even wear Saul's armour because it was far too heavy. He only has a stick, a sling and 5 little stones. There's no match here. David's starting to run. He's shouting. Do you want to hear what he's saying? The Bible tells us in verse 43 of 1 Samuel chapter 17 what Goliath said. Am I a dog? He roared, that you come at me with a stick. And he cursed David by the names of his gods. But listen to David's answer. You come to me with sword, spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. In other words, insulted. Today the Lord will conquer you. See, boys and girls, God was fighting for David. This wasn't David's battle, but this was God's battle. And David was faithful. When everybody around him would not take that first step, David wanted to do this for God. He didn't like what Goliath was saying. He didn't like what the Philistines believed. He didn't like the way they worshipped other gods. And so he was determined that he would be faithful to God and that he would take a stand. Perhaps there are giants in your life. Giants can be things like worry, sin. Sometimes we struggle with sin, don't we? Even as Christians we struggle with sin. Sometimes we struggle to tell the truth. Sometimes we struggle to obey our parents. Sometimes we struggle with jealousy and evil thoughts. Sin is everything that we think, we say, or we do that displeases God. Just because we are Christians and we have turned away from our sins, we've acknowledged our sin, we've realised that there's sin in our life, it still doesn't mean that we're perfect. Because we still feel God and we still let God down. And perhaps we struggle with these things. Give the battle to God. Let him take up the fight. No doubt David was nervous. No doubt David was stepping out into the unknown. Yet David had courage. He had guts. And he stepped forward for God. Give God your battle, Christian. Give those worries to him. Give those fears to him. You see, he lives in our life. When we asked him to come into our life and to take away those sinful things, he came into our life and he helps us to do what is right. He helps us to fight those struggles that we have in our lives. He helps us to make wise choices. He guides us in His Word and shows us the choices that we should make. Stay close with God. Be praying in these days. Be reading His Word. Because God will win the battle for you. Who's going to win this battle? Goliath was still shouting. And David had taken 5 stones from the wee brook. He had put the stone into the sling and he started to swing it. And it started to get faster. And it started to get faster. And it started to get faster. And the stone was released. And it went flying through the air and it hit the giant. And Goliath fell flat on his face. What do you think the rest of the soldiers did? The Philistine army? They ran. Their champion had been defeated. David had defeated the giant. Why? Because he trusted God, that God would give him the victory. Let God work in your life, Christian young person. And I trust and pray that you will have the victory over those struggles and problems that you have in your life. We read in the New Testament that God cares for you and He will help you to defeat those problems and struggles in your life. Until next time, God bless and stay safe.